Well, we're talking on Labor Day, and the big thing on the news, to the point where my wife, who's in Florida, called me to say you need to put out a news release about how detailed your book is about this North Korea nuclear situation. My novel, she's talking about the unelected president, which is available at johntreed.com. Anyway, not
shameless plug.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
obscene profit break. But anyway, so I did. I sent out emails to Fox News and New York Times and CNN and USA Today and NBC, CBS, and ABC. So and now I'm here. So if they're calling my home phone number, I won't get the call. So and with electronic media, if you miss the call, that's it. They don't do it again tomorrow. Anyway,
giving you your cell phone.
North Korea is it's in the news, and they're talking today about EMP and electromagnetic pulse, which the North Koreans are extremely fond of, and I knew that when I wrote my book, so I have an EMP in the book, and I also have another chapter where we're talking about preparing for an EMP attack, because we have a committee in the Washington that's supposed to be fixing that. And they're doing a crap job.
Fix our vulnerability to an EMP.
Yeah, reduce it. And they're doing a crap job. And in the president, Mike Medlock, in the Unelected President book, he fires the head guy on the EMP thing. And the guy says, well, I'm an independent agency. I have a term. You can't fire me. He said, well, you're fired. Sue me. Because the guy's not doing anything, and basically the military is saying, well,
neener.
we just want to take care of our own stuff, and the Homeland Security guys are saying, and this is not just in the book, this is reality. The Homeland Security guys are saying, well, we don't have the budget, and the Navy says they don't have the budget. Everybody says they don't have the budget. They want the other guys in the committee to do it.
Right.
Well, and Medlock says, I'm not interested in this crap. Get it done. You're not getting it done. You're fired.
I think explaining, biggest problem with this discussion, as you and I discussed, was how many misconceptions there are. So,
there are a zillion misconceptions with nuclear weapons and with EMP.
Has anybody done an accurate depiction of an EMP in a movie or a TV show that you're aware of?
No.
The only one I'm even aware of is Ocean's 11. They set off an EMP in Vegas as part of their heist.
Not a nuclear one.
No.
Yeah.
No, they call it a pinch.
Well,
it's just like a big, huge thing the size of a jet ski.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are.
It doesn't hurt anyone.
Right.
Neither does the knocks out the safe. And
the nuclear.
They can fall through the lasers that are now off.
The nuclear EMP does not hurt anyone because it's high altitude. But.
What do you mean by nuclear EMP? Because to me that sounds like a bomb.
It's an explosion, a nuclear explosion, and when you have a conventional explosion, you get two things: heat. I get like maybe three: heat, light, and a blast wave, a pressure wave. It's called. With a nuclear explosion, you get more like 8 things. You get ultraviolet, you get gamma rays, you get a hell of a power blast.
Well, there's even different types of nuclear blasts.
Well, there's a neutron bomb.
No radiation.
I'm not too. Yeah, the neutron bomb I think has less radiation, but radiation.
It's
a lot of people.
Your worries, right?
Yeah. Well, fallout is somewhat of a concern, but it goes away in 2 weeks. And what you're supposed to do if fallout comes to your neighborhood is stay indoors, and maybe you need to go get in a bathtub in the middle of the house, but for a couple of weeks. But
sit in a bathtub for a couple of weeks.
Huh? It's the fact that it's on your roof and not on you is better than on you. But the fact that it's on your roof is not good.
Right.
But it dissipates. Like uranium and plutonium, they have the half-life of like 10,000 years or something. The half-life of irradiated radioactive dirt, which is fallout, is like 10 hours.
Right.
So it loses its strength, half of its strength, like every 10 hours, and within 2 weeks, it's nothing. They could have rebuilt Hiroshima 2 weeks after the bomb with nobody suffering from radiation if they had the money. And by the way, you can look up Hiroshima on Google and ask for images. It's a rock and stock and gorgeous, super modern, wonderful looking modern city. But EMP is electromagnetic pulse. It can be created without nuclear weapons. But what you do with a nuclear weapon it created is you just set off a small nuclear weapon at high altitude. And it's so high up it doesn't harm anything or anybody on the ground. But it puts out this long wave pulse, which goes to the horizon. So the higher up you are, the farther it goes. Now, it's weaker the farther it goes also. But in my book, the North Koreans set one off over Central Park. But I think it's 14 miles up. And that gives them a 400-mile diameter circle, about half of which is the ocean. So it sends out these long waves. They go into they have to have a long piece of metal to go into. A long wave can't go into a short piece of metal. Physically, it's a physically long wave. So they go into power lines. Well, once they get in a power line, then they're in the power line, and the long wave stuff doesn't matter anymore. They just have this horrific surge. So it typically messes up power lines, street lights, transformers, and I think maybe the transformers act as sort of circuit breakers. You know, like it burns out the transformer, so they can't get through to whatever's on the other side. And the transformers, the huge transformers of power plants, are their main purpose is to push the power out further to the farthest customers. So these transformers, these huge transformers they have at power plants, they're only made in Europe and Japan, and they're custom built, and it takes like a year or two to build one. So if those got knocked out, it would take a while to replace them. But they might be able to replace them with putting smaller transformers in series or something. I'm not sure. But I just, a lot of people have said that 90 million people would starve in the United States if we get hit with an EMP attack. I don't think 90 would starve. For one thing, we didn't have, people say, well, we're so dependent on electricity. Well, I was in Vietnam for a year. We didn't have squat for electricity. We had generators.
People, rely on it is different than need it to survive.
I think they're going to. I don't think they're all going to fall down and curl up into a fetal position. They'll if they live in Tucson, where Mike here went to college, they're not going to hang around there in the summer if an EMP knocks out the power grid. But they're not going to die.
Well, what if they can't leave? How do they leave?
Well,
how much of their car?
There's a lot of ways.
How much of their car is shot?
Well, there's nothing. I don't think, because there's no long way. There's no long piece of metal that
the car is not long enough itself.
Well, it's not. You can be in a car and get hit by lightning, and it's if there's lightning, you're supposed to get inside the car. It's got rubber tires, and I don't think cars would be affected. You have to understand.
I think there's different physics.
We can't test this because it would hurt a whole lot of people. In the 1950s, the Americans did a test near Hawaii, and it blew out street lights and power lines and a number of things of that nature. The Soviets did a test in outer Siberia or something, and I think it burned a power plant down and it screwed up power lines. So it gets into the power lines and then it messes up the things that are connected to the power lines. But I don't think it gets into portable electronics that are not plugged in, and I don't think it gets into vehicles, electronics on vehicles or ships or planes. So, but we don't have a very precise knowledge of what an EMP would do in 2017 because we can't test it. It's like an unethical test. In the 50s, they were jerks about it. They just did it and didn't tell anybody to see how it would go, and it wasn't too bad. But now we're more electronic. But the North Koreans love the EMP because they think, well, you can't hurt us with this. We don't even have lights, at night. But we can hurt you because you're heavily dependent. But I think it would make a mess, and what would happen is people would figure, okay, here's what got hurt by the EMP. Here's what did not get hurt. Let's do more like what did not get hurt. And there's this thing called a Faraday cage, which is just a metal box. And it typically has holes in it. Like you might make it out of chain link fence. And what it does is it prevents long waves from coming in because the holes in the chain link fence are small.
Right.
And it physically can't fit through that hole. So if you have a good Faraday cage, when you have a door on it typically, it's going to be on 6 sides. There's going to be metal to keep these waves out. And the door has to be really tightly sealed around the edges.
It's portrayed in movies often. The most paranoid guy in the movie.
Oh, he's got a Faraday cage.
Basically lives in a Faraday cage.
Yeah. And you can't run it. You can't run a
parking garage.
You can't put a computer in there and then run a wire out of the Faraday cage and plug it into the grid. You have to be all self-contained.
Right.
But in the way you test a Faraday cage, and you can make a jury-rigged home Faraday cage out of a metal trash can. You go buy a metal trash can with a metal lid, and you tape the metal lid on, and you put your cell phone in and you call yourself. And if it rings, your Faraday cage has a leak. If it doesn't ring, it doesn't. So it's a fairly simple concept. But anyway, there are already Faraday cages. It's like high value things like maybe AT&T facilities. I suspect they've got AMP protection.
Right. Yeah. Your average person's not going to have it. So, but I think people would be curious. What is the real effects? You're saying it's not a big deal. 90 people won't die.
That would be a big deal.
What? Well, okay, it's a big deal, but it's not.
It's like a power outage, I think.
But components are destroyed.
The large transformer, which would prevent the electricity from getting to the outer customers farthest away from the power plant, but not everybody.
Well, the long wave's not going to hit the house and knock out everything that's plugged in.
I don't think so. I think it's power lines mainly. It gets into the power lines and it messes up the transformer.
It won't get into the house.
It may come in through the outlets, the power grid. But when they tested it in Hawaii and the Soviet Union, it didn't seem to get into the houses. It got into the street lights. It got into the power lines. Okay. But we're not certain. But it's not. The most people seem to think if an EMP goes off, everything electronic is toast. Everything electronic. Yeah. There's no power.
The depiction.
There's no cell phones.
That's actually not the depiction in Ocean's 11. Like I said, the only movie I'm aware of that shows it. Like everything comes back on.
Well, that was a conventional.
A couple minutes.
That was a conventional EMP. When you use the word nuclear, people get a little nutty.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea that if we have a nuclear war, it's going to be nuclear winter, and we'll all be dead, and all our pets will be dead, and everything will be turned to a pile of rubble. That's not the way it works. We're going
to turn into zombies.
Yeah. When I was a kid, there was a movie where the crabs were like the size of a house. But this is just nonsense.
Yeah.
The effect we had a nuclear war in World War II. In August 1945, we dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and another different kind on Nagasaki, and it did not destroy Hiroshima or Nagasaki. It blew up neighborhoods. Certain sections of the town. Now, they only show you the pictures of the blown up section, but the train station in Hiroshima was still running throughout the attack and afterward. So, and then the idea that people are going to get radiation poisoning and they're going to die for years and years. No, they're not. It's not the way it works.
There was a guy who was in both cities.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, you told me.
And he was hit. He was hit in both cities. He was wounded. He ended up in the hospital twice, and he died like 6 years ago, at age 93.
Right. Well, you told me once the radiation is basically dangerous within the heat blast, which doesn't do you a lot of...
Like 3 million degrees. You're
going to be dead.
3 million degrees Fahrenheit.
And then you're going to get radiation.
Well, it's the same line from Ocean's 11. It's like a nuclear bomb goes off and does an EMP, but usually the nuclear blast destroys everything that would have an electrical current anyway.
That you would need an electrical current for.
No, well, that's not true. The EMP in my novel, The Unelected President, it blows up at like 14 miles above Central Park, and that screws up electronics, the things that it screws up.
Where does a nuclear bomb usually get detonated when you want to destroy a city?
Maybe 1,000 feet up. Okay. There's an optimal height, but the EMP nuke is much smaller in the size of the blast because anyway, it's in the book. It screws up Boston to Washington, and that circle, but not. It doesn't shut everything down. It just creates this problem and that problem and so forth. But then the other thing is the nuclear war. nuclear. These the North Koreans. I don't know how many warheads they have, but where are they going to shoot them? We were just talking before we turned the mic on. I don't think they're going to shoot at Guam. Why is Guam even being discussed? It's U.S. territory. It's the closest U.S. territory to North Korea. But it's certainly not a threat. You don't see people in North Korea worried about Guam attacking them.
Right.
Guam is a big Navy and Air Force base. I was there on my way to Vietnam. We landed at Hickam Air Force Base in in Hawaii, to refuel. We're in like Boeing 707s. We fueled up in Travis Air Force Base, near where you used to live out here in San Francisco area. Then we went to Hawaii and refueled at Hickam Air Force Base. Then we went to Guam and refueled at Guam, and then we went on to Vietnam. So I've been there, but I think it's part of the Hawaiian Islands, and Guam is not just one island. I think it's a series of islands, and they have a capital. I forget the name of it, maybe Naha or something like that. So I think maybe it would be a good time to get out of Naha. But I don't think, go out to the suburbs of Naha. But I don't think they're going to shoot at Guam. I think they're going to shoot at Seoul, South Korea, which they can hit with artillery. The South Koreans had this genius idea, let's have the capital of our country, and like 80-90% of our citizens live within artillery range of North Korea, which is like 20, 30 miles. Anyway, what happens with a real nuclear blast is finite. There's a big fireball and a mushroom cloud, but if it's 1 megaton, it takes out like 6 square miles, which is, it's a lot of miles for one bomb, but it's not nuclear winter and the whole of America, some farm out in outer Kansas turning into a pile of rubble. It's not the way it works. But I think we could probably take out North Korea. What do we have to worry about? We have to worry about their missiles, and we have to worry about their submarines. That's it, strategically. That's all they have that we need to worry about. They have 4 Whiskey-class submarines that are capable of shooting cruise missiles. Cruise missiles have been around for 40 years. A very effective weapon. They were used by the Argentinians to sink 6 British Navy ships. They're quite potent. But these are diesel submarines. They're not atomic. We have fabulous anti-submarine warfare, as far as I know. I think we could take those 4 Whiskey-class submarines out promptly.
Right.
And then I think we could take out their Navy bases. Their Navy isn't even worth taking out, but it's so easy to take it out. They have two Navy bases, one on each coast, the east and west side. And their Navy is so wimpy that none of their ships can sail from one of their bases to the other. They don't have the fuel carrying capacity. So we could take the Navy bases out, 1 nuke on each. The people talk about this old war. It's not war like World War II. This is one boomer submarine, which I think has 24 Trident missiles, or maybe 12. I'm not sure which. If one submarine, and we have a lot of submarines, one submarine fires 2 missiles, not 24, just 2, and they would each have 12 independently targeted warheads. So we could take out 24 nuclear targets in North Korea by one submarine, one of our many submarines, firing 2 of its many missiles. And then with regard to the artillery in North Korea on the border is not strategic, it's tactical. It's piddling 20-mile, 30-mile stuff.
Right.
So what I suggested when we talked about this before is satchel-charged suicide drones, little propeller model airplanes that are drones, and it's carrying a satchel charge, which is maybe 10 pounds of explosive. And these
piloted by a 22-year-old with an Xbox controller
in Las Vegas, in Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. Yeah, you're exactly right about that. An 18-year-old. Anyway, we fly them into each entrance to these artillery tunnels, and I assume the entrance is of some size because you got to be able to have the barrel move around and aim at different targets. And so we fly the drones simultaneously into each and every one of these artillery tunnels, and we blow it up. I expect we know where they are. I mean, the tunnels have been there for decades, and a tunnel, in the winter, it gives off a heat signature if there's people in there.
right.
Infrared heat signature. So we ought to know where they are. We fly a drone, a suicide satchel charged drone into each one. Boom. It kills the guys in there. Probably wouldn't destroy the cannon, but it would take them a couple of weeks to repair it. And by then the war would be over.
Yeah, like you said earlier, nukes kind of freak people out more so than conventional bombs, even though, a small nuke does less damage than some conventional bombs.
The equivalent kilotonnage of conventional bombs, if delivered like carpet bombing, by B-52s, it will do more damage and kill more people than the same kilotonnage atomic bomb, which is all in one spot. Because the atomic bomb, while it is wonderfully small before it explodes, it is.
Yeah, that's the one benefit.
Yeah, that's the one benefit. That's why you put it on a missile.
Transport. Yeah, you can put it on.
So how many people were killed by Hiroshima?
I think it was around 80,000.
And how many didn't we firebomb another city before that?
Tokyo. Yeah,
how many did that kill?
More, and we killed more. I think in Dresden. Yeah, we firebombed cities, and in Japan, apparently the houses are made out of paper and cardboard and stuff. And somebody Curtis LeMay, I think, got the bright idea. Well, if they make the houses out of paper, why don't we burn the place down? And they did. The planes were coming over, the later waves of the bombers, dropping these incendiary bombs. They having trouble flying over the target because the heat was so great. It was like hang gliders getting lifted up over hot rock. Anyway, I would think if we attacked the North Koreans with the 2 Trident missiles, the 24 nuclear warheads, go after the air bases mainly. Go after, if we could, to the extent that we can identify missile sites. I think their missiles are on mobile launchers. So you shoot off the 24 nuclear warheads. You fly the drones and the satchel drones into the artillery tunnels, and then you blanket the country with drones, armed drones, surveillance drones, U.S. military fighter piloted
for
planes.
Monitoring.
Yeah, as soon as after the attack, then we blanket the country, which is about half the size of Utah. Blanket the country with armed drones, surveillance drones, fighter planes with pilots, bombers with pilots, South Korean fighter planes with pilots, maybe Japanese fighter planes with pilots, so that if anything military moves, boom.
Right.
So we are
before it starts moving.
And you can't look up in the sky
speed.
in North Korea without seeing an American, South Korean, or Japanese aircraft.
Is this blanketing? Is that what Medlock does in your novel?
Well, I don't want to spoil the novel, but he doesn't do drones in the artillery.
Well, I'll share parts of the novel.
The novel is set in 2013, so the enemy did not have long-range missiles then.
Right.
And one of the issues, Guam comes up. Are they going to attack Guam? Because they talked about attacking Guam even back then. And Medlock says, do we need to shoot down a missile that's headed for Guam? And he basically concludes it's too far away. They're going to have to get in their little submarine, their diesel submarine, and sail for like 2 or 3 weeks to get close enough to shoot at Guam. So he says, well, just take out he figures the submarines are a danger to Seoul, not to Guam, but Seoul's our ally. So he says, we'll take out the subs. But that's all planned in advance, by the way, in my novel. This is all on speed dial on the day that they feel they have to deal with it. But it's all been redone, revised. It's all on speed dial. And then when an incident occurs that Medlock feels needs the response, it's all on speed dial. That's the way in Vietnam, when we were in Vietnam, we had artillery on speed dial. You would call, say, give me cluster blue, and 4 rounds would land on a certain spot that was pre-planned, and then you adjust from that. It's all right 500 to where the enemy is.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go out on a patrol. You would have these pre-planned fire locations, so that you could call, and there would be like a rounds hitting on that spot immediately. Yeah, the enemy probably not at that spot, but then you adjust. You look through your binoculars. They add 1,000, left 200, and they change where it lands.
Yeah, I've heard Guam mentioned, and then Seoul.
Seoul is right
coverage. I was gonna say that's what I'm getting at is the news coverage. Now they have a nuke. Seoul's in trouble.
They are.
North Korea's had all kinds of ordnance they could have fired at Seoul. That's going to do
well. I don't know about all kinds. They
damage.
got artillery with high explosive rounds. Yeah, Seoul is in a very bad location. I have already written on my Facebook that the people in Seoul, anybody in Seoul, whether they're Koreans or visitors, it would be a good time to travel abroad. Be a good time to maybe see the national parks of South Korea. It would not be in Seoul.
Does the nuke drastically change the situation for Seoul, or is it pretty much the same? It's just a smaller package.
We need to like stomp out all their nukes instantly at one time, and to the extent that we miss any, and we probably would, it's probably going to Seoul, and it's going to take out 3 or 4 square miles around ground zero. And
they don't have any weapons before the nuke that could do that too.
No,
obviously not a single weapon, but
so.
I'm saying
no. I believe their Air Force and their artillery and their Navy, conventional surface Navy, is really like 1955 vintage, with expiration dates that are long past on the ammo. I think they don't have any money, so they're using the nukes to them is like a poor man's military.
Yeah, I looked up their GDP, at least in 2011, was $12 billion.
12 billion?
Yeah.
Well, it's a nation of skinny people with a fat dictator in charge. They get skinny people in the Army, they get skinny people in the Navy, the Air Force, and they get skinny citizens, and there's just one fat guy.
Yeah, the GDP, 12 billion. To contrast that, we're close to 20 trillion. 18 billion versus 20 trillion.
Well, North Korea is dark at night. It's the only place on Earth where you don't see lights from outer space.
Where you should. I mean, the middle of certain areas are dark as well, but that's
the whole city of Pyongyang is
highly populated.
Yeah, Pyongyang.
Well, I'm saying the middle of Siberia, not too lit up.
Right.
But North Korea looks. If you look at it, you can Google it.
It's a whole. It's a whole. It looks like South Korea is an island.
Right.
At night. Because you see lights in China and you see lights in South Korea, but there's no lights in North Korea. And it's Pyongyang. It's a big city.
Yeah.
But it's just the most screwed up place on Earth.
They don't sell Coke there.
Is that right?
How do you even know?
2 places on Earth that don't sell Coca-Cola.
What's the other one?
Take a guess. Who else is
Antarctica?
Who else is bat bleep crazy?
Iran?
No.
Saudi Arabia?
No.
Oh, really?
Cuba.
Oh.
Cuba. Oh, well, they have get American tourists there now.
Yeah, they might sell. No, that might be an outdated.
Well, Coke is
fun
considered an iconic representation of the imperialistic Yankees.
Well, it's like the most recognizable brand on the planet.
Yeah, but it's considered a American. Well, you and I just went to Canada, and we were talking. In Canada, all the McDonald's have a little maple leaf on the golden arches, and I don't know whether the government insisted on that or the people running McDonald's are so scared that they felt they had to put it. But I didn't see that.
Countries.
I didn't see it in Paris.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in Germany.
Italy.
Well, the countries that are
they have slightly different menus in other countries.
Yeah.
But the Golden Arches are the Golden Arches.
Right.
I mean, Canada might be the only place.
And Canada requires pretty much everything to have. Like we have we have a sign in English, and then you have a version in
have
Spanish.
French.
It's required.
Oh yeah,
that everything.
The French are only in one province called Quebec, and here we are all the way out in British Columbia on the coast, and you got to have all these French signs. There's nobody that.
And all the products have to have.
Yeah,
French that government dictate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Canada and the United States should merge, but I have a zero interest in Quebec.
Start a new nation called Quebec.
Oh no, that's exactly what they would do. They would have their new landlocked nation. I think they have some coast on the St. Lawrence Seaway, and they have a lot of water, so they generate hydropower. But these are guys. I think they have the right to not fight in Canadian wars.
Why?
Je suis français.
Right.
I don't. Anyway.
Living up to the white French flag.
We digress, but the problem seems to be in North Korea. I think what Mike Medlock did in my Unelected President book is a solution. You don't talk to these people. You don't bribe them. You don't. There's nothing. The way you get Kim Jong-un to do what you want is to kill him. it's
he's not even in charge of North Korea. His grandfather is.
Yeah, from the grave.
Oh,
well, it's a necrocracy. Technically, the original is still in charge.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, you mean they're
The
Looney Tune
deer leader? And,
they're Looney Tune rules.
He's just working on his behalf.
Well, it's like they call it divine right of kings. He has the grandson right of.
Well, he's keeping it warm for him until the zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Until
anyway,
he emerges from the cave.
anyway, there's no way to deal with North Korea. It may be that if China shut the border and allowed no exports, no imports, and we quarantined the ports, that would starve them into submission. Although the fat dictator would be the last one to die. But I don't know that China's going to do that. And if China's not going to do that, I think you need to attack. Now, people think, well, we're going to send troops across the border. And no, we're not. I hope. We did that in the 50s. China,
there's no need to. With the
North
technology.
Korea is very mountainous. You don't want to fight a war where you're on the attack in the mountains and the other guys are in caves.
Hiding. Yeah.
Yeah, they shoot. And they're up higher than you. The Korean War, I remember seeing some GIs discussing it, veterans of the Korean War. They said the whole war was about taking the top of each mountain. And it was an SOB of an effort to climb up those mountains.
Right.
Hamburger Hill and all that stuff.
Yeah, it seems like you just fly the drones over the tops of the mountains and you're good to go.
Yeah, we have strengths and the North Koreans have weaknesses. For us to fight them with M14 rifles and M4s, this is playing to their strength.
We could put on red coats and slowly march into them.
Yeah.
That brilliant tactical strategy.
What we need to do is take out what little infrastructure they have, eliminate their fuel.
Military infrastructure, you mean? Or
whatever's useful to the military. Bridges, gasoline,
Yes.
railroads. Just take that stuff out. I don't think their army is of any threat whatsoever. The army runs the artillery, so you want to stop them from shooting shells into Seoul. And I think that could be done. You have to do it one cannon at a time, but you could do it simultaneously.
Yeah, they just don't have the ability. What's the word you use? The ability to project their military. Hardly anywhere.
Their artillery shoots 30 miles max, I think. I mean, you can only go so far with artillery before the cannon starts to get too big.
What about their Air Force?
Their Air Force is like 1955 stuff, I think. It just,
we can handle it.
Biplanes, my impression is they're conventional.
They've got pole starts.
And what?
They've got pole starts like a lawnmower.
Maybe. But old planes, old ships, their submarines are a little bit more modern, but they're diesel that they bought from Russia. And then their army, I don't think, has squat. They got a bunch of old cannons.
I love how they put people in the name of everything. Korean People's Army Air Force. That's the Wikipedia entrance.
Oh, really?
People's Republic of Korea.
Yeah.
Democratic People's Republic.
Yes.
People's Republic of Berkeley.
No, there is no more democracy or people or republic than in North Korea.
Yeah, well, that's the typical communist dictatorship. They have all these adjectives that are the opposite of what they are. But anyway, we need to eliminate the threat. The strategic threat in North Korea is missiles and submarines. So we need to take them out. And we need to get rid of the chain of command. And the artillery would be a tactical annoyance. And the army would be a tactical annoyance. The Navy is not even a tactical annoyance, the surface Navy. So they don't have much for us to destroy. And we don't have to kill many of their people. We just got to get rid of their missiles. And like I said, some would probably survive in caves, and they bring them out on mobile missile launchers. We need to blanket the skies with surveillance. Half the size of Utah, we could put a whole lot of planes. We got satellites looking down on them. We got and there's ICBMs. When they take off, they're going pretty slow. They lift off the pad. They're doing 5 miles an hour, 10, 20 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. We got a lot of heat-seeking missiles we can shoot down stuff going that slow. Once it gets up to max speed, which is like 10, 15,000 miles an hour, I don't know if we have something that can take it down. But
most of their fighter aircraft are Soviet MiGs.
Yeah, well, the Soviet Union disappeared like 91 or something.
MiG-29, MiG-23, MiG-21. You would know more about.
So you're saying the warranty on them is up?
Yeah, the warranty's up. The ammunition's expired. Yeah, I don't even know if they can keep them.
A couple fighters from China.
If they call the support
where do they
hotline?
get repair parts for 20 MiG-29s?
Yeah,
Vladimir's.
They call support hotline and they get an automated.
I think
Vladdy's like, air parts and air part accessories.
This is like the Air Force equivalent of a classic car show, you know. So I don't think if their planes took off, and I don't know why we should let them, but if their planes took off, I think and I mean this literally, our helicopters could shoot them down. During the war Desert Storm against Iraq, our helicopters shot down their MiGs, which were much more modern. One of our helicopters shot down a MiG. With a heat.
Was the MiG shooting at the helicopter, or didn't know?
I don't know.
Didn't know it was there.
I don't know. But one of our helicopters shot down a MiG with a heat-seeking missile, and those were modern. That was an oil country, or an oil country's MiGs, not North Korea, which is a kimchi country. Make cabbage and vinegar or something. That's their main
primary export.
Their main export, other than coal, which they would ordinarily eat.
That and entertainment.
Yeah.
The Kim Jong Un there's a cartoon that makes fun of him. It's pretty for the adventures of Kim Jong Un.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just him and his dad. His dad basically owned the whole South Park movie. Not South Park, but Team America.
Yeah.
It was just a mock him the entire time.
Yeah, the whole movie. Him and Alec Baldwin.
Well, right. If we attack
equal treatment,
if we attack North Korea in the way that I'm saying, the only unknown variable is how many people the North Koreans going to kill in Seoul before.
Well, there would be
over.
0 American casualties.
Oh no, there would be plenty. We have a lot of soldiers.
Well, I'm talking about outside if they counterattack. Our attack would involve 0 American casualties.
American soil or American soldiers.
The American soldiers,
are living in Seoul.
The American soldiers in Korea would be in danger, and their dependents, their wives and kids.
Yeah, they're stationed there with their families.
And the American diplomats.
I'm talking about pre-counterattack. There would be little to no risk to the Americans involved in the attack on North Korea.
Well, after we attack North Korea.
Again, I'm talking about during the attack.
Well, if we attack all their artillery emplacements simultaneously, we would probably minimize the amount of artillery they're able to get off. But they know exactly where we are along the border, our military bases.
Yeah.
So they've got their speed dial artillery aimed at that,
right?
And they're going to get off some rounds. If we fly these suicide satchel drones into every artillery tunnel, some of them are going to be duds, and stuff like that. Or maybe the thing flies in and it goes into a closet and blows up or something. So you're always going to have a certain percentage. So they're going to get off some rounds, and they may fire some. They may have some very hardened missiles aimed at South Korea with nuclear warheads that they can take a nuclear attack and then fire those missiles. So the question would be, how many people die in Seoul? That would be the issue. But I think we have to say, hey, too bad. Decades ago, everybody was saying we got to stop these guys, and we didn't.
Do they have any sort of missile defense in Seoul?
Well, we gave them the THAAD missiles recently, which are anti-missile missiles, and their left wing was against it. And they elected a new president
in South Korea.
Yeah, the new president in South Korea said he didn't want the THAAD missiles.
Why?
They want to appease the North and kiss up to them.
They're defense missiles.
They're anti-missile missiles.
Yeah, I've never understood that. There's opposition to anti-missile missiles in Europe,
South Korea,
and you're saying South Korea. Well, there was similar stuff.
No, I don't understand it. In my book, Medlock,
like it's somehow an aggressive move. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, yeah, Chinese are unhappy about the THAAD missiles. But in my book, Medlock expresses consternation. What is with the South Koreans? They're in big danger there. And they're trying to be buddy-buddy with this guy. This guy's nuts. He killed the Kim family has killed 3.5 million Koreans since 1950. and they kill every now and then. They fire artillery into some neighborhood in South Korea just for the fun of it, and kill 60 people or something. And they kidnap people from South Korea. They assassinate people inside South Korea. They have
what is their, if you can even elucidate one? What is their what do they want to do?
Stay in power.
World domination, or just kind of stay in power?
No, stay in power. And apparently,
power over their rippy dip little country.
Yeah,
where they don't even have lights on.
But I'm saying, would they take over South Korea if they could?
They tried in 1950.
Yeah.
That now they can't. Their whole military strategy is nukes, because they're too weak to stop us from invading them. They were South Korea was a crappy army when the Korean War started. They're now pretty good. And Vietnam, they were highly respected. They were very, very disciplined. But in the North Korean military, they have a whole lot of people. I think they say it's the largest military in the world, but it doesn't. The way they count doesn't matter. They on active duty, I think they have like the 4th or 5th largest number. But you see pictures of them; they're skinny. I don't think they're very well equipped. I don't think they're very well fed, and they can't stop the Americans and South Koreans from invading them conventionally. It would be a pain in the ass war because of the mountains and all that. But they went to the nukes because they can't afford a military. Essentially, they can't afford a modern military. They can't afford much, other than
they can't afford
bonbons.
Things you have to feed.
Yeah, bonbons for Kim Jong-un. Other than that, everybody else is pretty much on ramen noodles. It looks like,
and not the flavored kind.
No, they can't. You couldn't get
plain.
The flavor. Yeah, you get the plain,
dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even the name brand. They get the government issue ramen.
Right.
But anyway, the issue would be PR optics. You'd have all the, oh my God, Trump used nuclear weapons.
Right.
But hey, in the old times when they had duels, the guy that challenged the other guy to the duel, he let the guy he challenged pick the weapons. So in this case, Kim Jong-un has picked his weapons. He wants to do nuclear. Fine. We have nukes. We'll do nuclear. The other thing is his targets, the military targets for us in his country, are hardened with a capital H. Well, the more you harden your target, the bigger the bomb we need to attack it. So if you harden your targets, we have to have nukes in order to attack your targets. So if you don't want nukes to come at you, don't get nukes and don't harden. If you harden or get nukes, we're coming at you with nukes. We don't take a knife to a gunfight. We don't take a conventional weapons to a nuclear war.
Well, some people, certain past presidents might take a knife to a gunfight. I don't know.
Well, Obama's the one who said he wouldn't. Not that he's ever been in either kind of fight, or even in the Boy Scouts.
A debate.
Yeah. But anyway,
not a physical altercation. He probably feels he's above such.
The American presidents,
he can talk his way out of anything.
The American presidents and the Western world are afraid to use nukes because it's taboo.
Right.
And we can't have that attitude with North Korea. We have to say, hey, they picked the weapons. We don't do nuclear attacks on non-nuclear countries except in Japan. But they picked a weapon. They hardened everything. We're not going to send American infantrymen running up and down the mountains over there just to be politically, public relations nice. We're gonna do like Franklin Roosevelt said. You want to win a war with the fewest casualties possible. You kill as many as the enemy as you can as fast as possible. He said, "I'm sorry, but that's the way it works." And we found this out in the Civil War. They were trying to be nice guys in the Civil War because these were our brothers we were fighting. And finally, Grant and Sherman said, "You know what? This isn't working." So then they started destroying the railroads, destroying the crops, destroying the cities, and pulling up the railroad ties wherever they went anywhere. They would destroy the railroads. So they decided we got to make these people. The Southerners need to hurt as much as we can make them hurt to get them to surrender, and that worked. And that worked. So we've been pussyfooting around with North Korea for 67 years. So as they keep saying, but when it comes out of the mouths of government employees, enough is enough and our patience has run out. Mike Medlock didn't say any of those words in my book. He doesn't say all the options are on the table. He doesn't say our patience is running out. He doesn't say there's going to be fire and fury. He just turns quietly to a guy in the military command center and says, execute Operation Kilo 12 Golf.
Right.
That's the only thing he says about all this stuff. He doesn't talk. Somebody asked him about, does he believe in Teddy Roosevelt's policy of speak softly and carry a big stick? And he said, Teddy talked too much. So Trump is talking too much. He doesn't talk as much as Obama.
Understatement of the year.
Yeah.
But, I'm talking about when you're talking about military, he's very reticent. He was asked the other day, "You're going to attack North Korea?" He said, "We'll see." That's more than Medlock would have said. Medlock would have said, "I do not discuss future military operations."
That's longer than "we'll see."
No, it's longer, but it's less information. I do not discuss future military operations.
I kind of like "we'll see" better, to be honest. But
It's more ominous.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's more
Or
ominous.
just sort of a
what he means
shrug.
When he says "we'll see," it means I'm not. That's secret. I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
He said. So now somebody said, "You're going to fire Bannon." He said, "We'll see," and it fired him like 2 hours later. So you don't want to be if you're North Korea. You don't want to say, "Well, we'll see" means no. No, not with Trump. It doesn't mean no. But there's too much talk. Tillerson and Nikki Haley. Too much talk about our patience is running out. Too much talk about sanctions. Too much talk about all options are on the table. Just pull the trigger. Get it over with. Like yanking a Band-Aid. And if there's no good options.
And about
fine.
as quick.
If there's no good options, then let's pick the least bad option. And
it seems to be doing nothing is the preferred option.
No good options. Like, we're such a bunch of wimps that the only options we're willing to do are good ones that are popular and nice and nobody's going to criticize us.
Yeah.
So this needs to be done. It needs to be done, by the way, in Iran as well.
The only way
I wouldn't attack Iran.
The only way there wouldn't be critics of a full-out assault on North Korea is if they literally nuked someone. They might have to nuke 2 people.
Well, Mike Medlock in my Unelected President book is very, very against the idea of letting the other side take the first shot so we can look politically like good guys.
Yeah.
And we let them take the first shot at Pearl Harbor. There's about 2,400 guys dead. And we let them take a shot in 9/11. That was like 3,000 guys dead. In a nuclear age, you let the other guy take the first shot. That you're saying it's like a Sophie's Choice for 600,000 Los Angeles people. So we're going to sacrifice 600,000 Los Angelinos.
Yeah.
So that we can have the political. Oh well, they started it. No, we're not doing that. We're going to take the first shot in a nuclear war because being the guy to shoot second in a nuclear war means something like 500,000 people lose their lives. It's talking about North Korea now, where they shoot 1 or 2 missiles.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they could shoot from a boat. By the way, in my novel, they're planning to shoot missiles at the United States with nuclear warheads. Is from not submarines, but a fake yacht and fake container ships. So they're not shooting missiles at the United States in my novel from North Korea. They're shooting them from a container ship off the coast, the west and east coast.
Yeah, I wonder if any of this happens. I mean, it seems to me that the only tactic for setting off a nuke is to do it secretly.
You shoot it from North
Unless
Korea,
you
we
have
know
a
where it
death
came
wish.
from. Yeah.
I mean,
so why not send it FedEx?
Yeah, I mean, put it, hide it in something and
Put it in a
ship
shipping
it
container.
and don't tell anyone what you did.
Yeah.
Because if you do, nobody's.
Well, or
nobody,
better yet, make it look like your enemy did it.
Yeah, there's movies.
Like they did in the what's it called? Designated Survivor, the TV series, where somebody's trying to make it look like Iran did it.
Spoiler alert.
Well, it's the first episode. It's way long ago. But
that show get canceled or
no?
I don't know.
They've just started running promos for the second season.
Yeah, this month.
But what I'm saying is they don't need long-range missiles to hit the United States. You think about it. You could get some yacht and that I don't think yachts get checked that much the way like a big container ship would. And you get some yacht, you could sail it up the Potomac. I don't know. I'm not a Potomac Navy guy. Maybe there's a checkpoint because the Potomac River is like within a mile or half a mile of the White House. So you could take a nuke up the Potomac River. You could take nukes through the St. Lawrence Seaway, I expect.
Yeah.
And go blow up Detroit and Chicago. And
the plot of the movie, The Sum of All Fears, is basically some radicals making it look like Russia nuked the U.S. At a football game that the president was attending.
In order to get us to attack Russia.
And Jack Ryan figures it out. And they avoid nuclear war. Like, he has to get on the phone you can't unhook with the president of Russia and basically convince him not to fire at the U.S. So, well,
the idea of the coolest way to do nuclear war is to do it
coolest way.
Which is maybe a little bit of a mixed metaphor where the temperature is 3 million degrees Fahrenheit. But the best way to do nuclear war is to do it secretly against somebody you don't like, but it doesn't need to be your worst enemy. You want to make make it look like your worst enemy did it. So you go after a superpower like Russia or China or the United States and make it look like your worst enemy.
Attack someone else.
Yeah, so that they will shoot back at Iran or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should attack. We should do it simultaneously so that we try to take out everything in the first hour, and then we blanket the country with armed aircraft, and if anything moves that's olive drab, we kill it.
And then
anybody?
What next?
After that?
You can't fly drones over the country forever. I mean, I guess
you wouldn't have to.
You could.
No, you hit it with 24, 25.
But what's the end game? Just
the end
destroying
game
the
is they have no. They're not in the game anymore. They have nothing to fight with.
Yeah.
They have no food. They have no leader.
Would you take out you take out the leader as well?
First thing. They have nothing. Their surrender is a technicality. They have nothing. In military intelligence, you're looking for two things: what is their intent, and what is their capability. So what I'm saying to do with North Korea is eliminate their capability, in which case their intent doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think the long-term aftermath of the attack would be a reunification of North and South Korea. But if I were South Korea, I wouldn't be that eager to have that. That the people in that country, the North Koreans, have been infantilized. They're like a bunch of babies. I would expect. When West Germany reunited with East Germany, which is where Angela Merkel's from. She grew up in East Germany, the communist side. The East German, the middle-aged and older East Germans were a pain in the ass because they're basically all on welfare. I mean, a lot of them had government jobs, but they never had a hustle. Well, they just did what they're like. They're all in the army.
How many people that grew up in North Korea have escaped, and that we've seen? Have you seen them that they're actually kind of infantile, like you said? Or they're just so sequestered from the real world.
There's a whole lot of these communist iron curtains falling down. The same thing happens every time. The middle-aged and older people, they don't want to leave. They don't know. They can't comprehend the United States and free countries and all. The young people adopt enthusiastically the new. So that's the way it goes. But in North Korea, you would have the worst case.
How come?
Because it's been so draconian. It's like a big prison.
Yeah.
The people they don't do much for themselves. Everything's run by the government. So they believe that Kim Jong-un can read their minds. So they don't even try to think bad thoughts. I mean, some of them who have come out.
That's why. Yeah, I'm curious. I haven't.
Oh, I've seen him interviewed. One that just defected. He was the ambassador, the Korean ambassador to Germany or something, and he
made the trip, and he's like See ya.
No. He was there. He was there for a long time. He had some kind of a problem going on back in the country, and he said, "I'm done," and he defected. And he seemed like a normal guy. But he'd been a foreign diplomat. Yeah, he had a family, and his family with him. I think he was delayed. He was delayed in defecting it. They made his family go back, and then they finally let him come back with him so they could go to school in Paris or wherever he was. And when they arrived back, then he pulled the plug. And in my Unelected President novel, there's I don't want to spoil it, but there's people over there who are working with us. But the reunification of the Korean Peninsula would be a mess for the South Koreans, because the North Koreans, I think the young people would be fine in North Korea, but the middle-aged and older people, they have no concept of getting a job, saving, all that kind of stuff.
Googling.
No, you know about Ayn Rand. She defected from the Soviet Union.
Right.
Her sister stayed there, and then Ayn Rand became famous to the point where her sister saw a picture of her in a Soviet newspaper or magazine or something, and Ayn Rand finally was able to get, after many years, able to get her sister a visa and an exit visa to come visit her in the United States, and she was an older woman at the time, maybe in her 50s or 60s. And when they're coming from the airport to Ayn Rand's apartment in New York City, Ayn Rand is talking to her freely, like an American would. Mm-hmm. And her sister in the back seat, she's signaling her, "Be quiet, be quiet. The cab driver's listening." So
that's what she's used to.
Yeah, and then the whole American shtick. A lot of the West Germans or the East Germans that were under communism, when the countries reunited, they said that the capitalist West Germans would elbows out society. Elbows out, like you get a fight, everybody's constantly competing with each other. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's free enterprise. That's the free markets. But they were very turned off by this. And Ayn Rand's sister could have stayed, but she wanted to go back. Svetlana Stalin defected. The daughter of Joe Stalin defected to the United States, and she went back. And they have a lot of skills. They know how to stand in lines. Really. They know how to stand in lines. They'll be walking down the street and see a long line. They go get in it without even knowing what it is, because, it's probably something to stop. Then they find out what it is. But these skills aren't useful here. You need different skills here. You need to know how to find a job, write a resume, do an interview. They have no concept of these things, and they feel like they may have a decent job in their country. Maybe they're the head of the civil engineering department for a city, and they come over here, and they're like kindergarten kids. Prospective employers don't want them, and I know some companies where they've hired ex-Soviet citizens or ex-East Bloc citizens, and they in a business, they're engineers and stuff, but they said you can't use them for anything where they have to be independent thinkers.
Right.
They do what they're told, but they don't want to go out on a limb in any way, shape, or form, and they're just too scared of the apparatchik and the bureaucracy and all from their old habits.
Sounds similar to
that.
And
the mind reading.
Yeah. It sounds similar to the Korean pilot's story.
Right.
Where they saw there was some astronomically high amount of crashes or accidents or something, and they figured out it was the society's
extremely deferential to authority and to older people.
So the co-pilot won't tell the pilot something's wrong.
Running out of gas.
Right.
Yeah. The co-pilot would not tell the pilot he's running out of gas, and the higher-ranking pilots would punch the lower-ranking guys, and this was allowed.
That's one of the most colossally stupid things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
This is how most societies have been run for centuries.
The Korean airlines
with variations on
had so many accidents that they were banned from a lot of normal airports. And what they found when they investigated was this horrific cultural deference to authority, to the point where the co-pilot and the other people in the plane would not tell the pilot we're about to crash. They would rather crash than get their ass chewed. And they had to do a number of things to overcome it. It was quite difficult to overcome this culture, and that's part of the Unelected President book, is once they decapitate the country, North Korea, they kill Kim Jong-un, or so we think. Nobody can find him. That nobody's in charge. And days go by, and everybody's afraid to.
They're waiting to be told what to do.
They also don't want to step out and say, "Well, it looks like Kim's dead. I'm taking over," for fear that he's going to crawl out of the rubble.
Well, yeah, I assume that there's a couple generals or something to that effect over there.
Well, in my novel,
think they run the place and wouldn't.
In my novel, there is considerable amount of time where all the North Korean people who survived the attack are, I'm just a 2-star general, I don't know nothing about nothing.
Right.
Anyway, I think the solution in North Korea is fairly straightforward. Got to take out the missiles. Got to take out the submarines. From a tactical standpoint, we need to stifle the artillery. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's no, China and Russia are not going to like it. What are they going to do about it? China sells 36.
Yeah, they're big fans of ours as it is.
Well, China sells $36 billion a month, I think, of exports to us, and we sell $9 billion a month to them. If they get into a war with us, they sell zero and they get zero, and they need the $9 billion that we sell them, and they can't sell the 36. So if they get into a war with us, they have to lay off like 40% of the population, and to the Chinese dictatorship, like the North Korean one. Their greatest fear is not America. Their greatest fear is their own people, because they got a whole hell of a lot of them, and they're not thrilled.
Right.
And Russia, the Russian people are having a terrible economic situation, and here's Putin. He's spending their money to be a big shot in Syria, spending their money to be a big shot in Cuba, and all this stuff, and they're hurting. Their incomes are going down. Their population is going down. So they're constantly trying to stir the pot to say, "Oh, I'm the only one protecting you from America." Well, America doesn't give a rat's rump about Russia. Like we're going to invade. For what? You don't have enough ice, enough dirt,
vodka.
Stole my joke before I could say it.
Enough
ice.
Enough Mariashka dolls. The one fits inside the other.
Yeah.
Who cares? And we don't even care about China.
Russia's got oil.
Yeah, they do. And they have gas. And so do we. And now that we got Governor Perry in the head of the Energy Department and Trump as the president instead of Obama, we're going to put the Russians out of business with their oil. It's more reliable to buy oil, natural gas in tankers from us than it is to let Putin give it to you. Because whenever Putin's pissed off at you, he cuts off the gas.
Right.
And the Germans and the French had a lot of nuclear power plants, and the Germans were imitating them, which was a very wise idea. And then they freaked out about Fukushima and decided to close down all their nuclear plants, and now they're more dependent on Putin again. But yeah, they got oil and gas, and they got ice, and they got dirt. Can't grow anything on the dirt because it's too cold, but they have a lot of dirt. Their claim to fame is they're the biggest country in the world. But we are arguably the biggest country in the world where the country's worth a damn. You can grow wheat in North Dakota.
Right.
You don't grow wheat in North Russia. You don't grow anything but ice crystals. So we have the biggest country in the world in terms of usefulness. Temperate climate and ports and rivers and all that stuff. So anyway, we should not be afraid of nuclear war with North Korea because it's going to be quite finite. It'll be like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We should not be afraid of Russia or China coming in like they did in the Korean War. They're not coming in at any way, shape, or form. We should not be afraid that we're all going to be turned to cinders and the nuclear winter is going to destroy the planet Earth. And none of that's going to happen. We should not be afraid that everybody's going to, the world's going to end as a result of this. It's just going to be the fat guy in North Korea getting killed and a whole bunch of his half-assed military being destroyed to the point where there isn't anything there anymore. And probably the result of that would be a whole lot of charity from the American people after it was over, reunification of this Korean peninsula, China being all pissed off because the communist countries like buffer states between them and our allies. Well, tough.
Right.
Do without it. So I think we're making too much of we're being too squeamish about the nuclear the nuclear option, which is the only option.
And Medlock is not squeamish.
He's squeamish. He doesn't like killing people. And one of the things that happens, he bombs Pyongyang, and he finds out he killed the British ambassador and the Canadian ambassador and the French ambassador. He said, what the hell do these people have ambassadors in Pyongyang for? Not that he would have held fire, but he said, what are they doing there? And he told them, first day he's in office, he said, if you're near people who have declared themselves to be our military enemies, like Iran and North Korea, move away. Thank you and good night. And they didn't. They didn't believe him. But we're not doing this right. Too much squeamishness, too much reticence, too much PR consciousness. Get it over.